Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini-episode, I have a couple of bizarre cryptid stories to tell you all today, folks. One involving this winged owl man in Chicago, and another, a Mothman sighting that is very bizarre. Let's start off with this winged owl man humanoid seen twice by multiple Chicago witnesses and get into this story right now, because it sounds like it's related to Mothman and the, phenomena that's taking place in Chicago even right now, folks. So let's get into this story right now and read the opening. In mid-April 2017, multiple witnesses around Chicago reported chilling encounters with a towering winged humanoid resembling an enormous owl. These reports, collected by MUFON within just 2 days of each other, describe a black, man-sized entity with glowing eyes and massive wings. Could these sightings mark the beginning of a wave of unexplained aerial phenomena in the Chicagoland area? Chicago, Illinois, April 15, 2017. I arrived at the Chicago International Produce Market at 2 a.m., located just off Damon. As I walked across the parking lot, I noticed a group of 4 to 5 guys staring up at the sky. I looked up and was stunned to see the biggest owl I have ever encountered. I'm 6'2", and I estimate that this creature was at least a foot taller than me. It was entirely black except for its bright yellowish red eyes, which resembled those of a cat. The owl stood there for a minute or two, staring at everyone, before abruptly launching into the sky and vanishing. Its presence made everyone feel uneasy, and it only took off after some guys threw rocks at it. Its wings were like those of an owl, but significantly larger, and you could hear the flapping sound as it took off. As it flew away, it made a noise reminiscent of burnt-out truck brakes. It circled wildly, producing the sound again before flying off in the direction of the Stevenson Expressway. We stood around for a few minutes looking for it, but it never returned. I'm sharing this report because there's no way this was an ordinary owl. It stood upright like a man, just much taller. I prefer to remain anonymous because I doubt anyone would believe me. One of my co-workers who witnessed this event mentioned that it made him feel uneasy, like a scared child. He was relieved when someone threw a rock at it and scared it off. MUFON. 2 days later, another report shows up on the MUFON CMS. Chicago, Illinois, April 16, 2017. I was hanging out with my friends when we started discussing work and our families. Suddenly, we heard a noise that sounded like a bird flapping its wings. One of my friends yelled that he saw a huge lechuza, Spanish for barn owl. We walked over to the road and saw what looked like a large owl. As we approached, this owl stood up on 2 feet and looked directly at us. It was enormous. Lechuza stood about 6 feet tall with large glowing red eyes that freaked everyone out. We all yelled, and this creature took off into the air, heading toward North Avenue. The sight terrified all of us, including the children. MUFON. Ooh, another interesting story, isn't it, folks? What is this creature? Is it all related to Mothman? I don't know, but it does sound reminiscent of him, even if it is only just a giant owl, folks. Either way, here's some commentary. The proximity and time and location of these two encounters suggests a recurring manifestation of the same winged humanoid in Chicago. Both witnesses describe a towering owl-like creature with glowing eyes, standing upright and exuding a sense of dread. The emotional reactions, fear, unease, and even relief upon its departure, align with patterns often reported in other Mothman or winged humanoid cases. The entity's size, behavior, and eerie auditory phenomena, wing flaps, break-like screech, point towards something beyond natural ornithology. Cultural references, such as the lechuza, highlights folkloric ties, but the interdimensional or ultra-terrestrial hypothesis cannot be dismissed, especially given the clustering of sightings in Chicago that year. Indeed, whatever this creature is, folks, it is very startling. Is it a lechuza? Or even a La Lechuza, which is a sort of owl witch from basically Mexico folklore, folks? It could possibly be. But is there any connection between La Cheruza and perhaps Mothman and even the English Owlman, folks? Both and all entities have similar characteristics. And if you look at the Men in Black, folks, with their female counterparts, the women in black have often been described as having, cold black eyes, much like the La Cheruza. At least I'm pretty sure that the La Cheruza are known to have black eyes as well. So maybe there's a connection to all these different entities with these, large owls that were seen in Chicago. All of it's very interesting. Now, what is with these entities, folks? Why are they showing up? Why are they basically appearing in Chicago of all places, folks? And is there going to be something that goes down in Chicago or not? Because it's been said that, Mothman has been a harbinger of doom, so maybe something's going to happen there. Either way, let's move on to the next article. Vanishing feathered cryptid, who or what walked out of the woods that night in Pike County, Pennsylvania. Let's read the story with this other winged cryptid that's also very terrifying. On a quiet night in Pike County, Pennsylvania, a witness encountered a bizarre robed figure adorned with black and red feathers that seemed to step right out of myth. But as the witness gave chase, the mysterious entity simply vanished into thin air, leaving behind only fear, questions, and the sound of barking dogs. Hello, a strange upright entity walked out of the woods at my residence in Pike County, Pennsylvania. I followed it, and it just vanished. I was sitting in my driveway looking up at the stars, and I heard something come out of the woods at the end of my street. There is a creek at the end of my street, so I was wondering how they came out, well, of there. This thing started walking up my street, and it was walking very weird. It was wearing a black robe and a weird hat with a point and a curve. This entity had black and red feathers covering the black robe. So, not exactly a winged cryptid here, folks, but you have to understand, I've heard of other such encounters, and wings were often described with these robed entities. Or at least basically similar entities, folks. For all we know, this was a demon. It was wearing similar attire as basically this one account of this winged, entity that was seen on this person's, roof one time by the witness who was in another building. Maybe this is something similar, especially with its, wizard-like attire, folks. It makes me wonder what this thing was. Maybe it was some sort of, wizard, perhaps? Maybe a skinwalker or other such magic-using entity. For all we know, folks, it could be along the lines with the people who saw this owl in Chicago. What it was, folks, I think this was a winged entity, but we don't know for sure. But the feathers do remind me of that. Either way, let's continue with this article. I hid behind my car, waiting until it walked near my house. Note, it was walking the same pace the whole time, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they didn't say anything back and kept on walking at the same pace up the street. So I started following them, and at the other end of my street are more woods. I was right behind this thing. The thing got to someone's yard, and I was 5 feet behind it, and it started walking into the woods. I turned the flashlight on my phone real fast. Within 2 seconds, I didn't stop walking. When I was turning it on, when I looked up with my flashlight, it was gone. It just vanished into thin air. Nothing. I looked all over with my flashlight. There was nothing. I just don't know. I want an explanation, and I want it soon. I do not want to live in fear knowing what I saw. I just remember my dogs barking at it, and it did not even flinch. Just someone explain this D. Maybe you'll get an explanation. This was definitely some sort of supernatural entity, folks, especially with the behavior of just suddenly disappearing. It could be that this entity literally took flight with wings that spring out from the rope, folks, or maybe it just vanished, as is the case with so many different supernatural entities that we've read through. But the fact is they took his eyes off this entity is telling, folks, because that lines up perfectly with other stories and corroborates them, because literally, folks, the moment you take your eye off any of these entities and when you look back, they're gone. Either Bigfoot, aliens, or even Mothman, folks, or whatever this mysterious wizard-like entity that this particular man dubbed D, saw. All we can say, folks, is he saw something that even I would have to say sounds like literally a creature of myth. Honestly, our guide here, D, basically with him explaining a story, sounds like he witnessed literally something from a fantasy novel, folks. Like he saw Gandalf or even Elminster from Dungeons and Dragons, with the way he described this entity. Though he didn't describe, the man or this entity's face, folks. I mean, if he did get a look at it, I wonder if he basically would have said that this, entity had a beard. Either way, a very chilling story, folks, and makes you think that there's definitely something out there, something particularly bizarre, both with the various accounts that we've read through daily, folks, be it in various encounters with what the witnesses described as alien beings, or even ultra-terrestrials, or in some cases, interdimensional interlopers, folks. In all these cases, they have certain elements that seem to show up in different stories all the time. And certainly, the stories we've read about today, folks, they do share those qualities with this impossible owl to this, feathered wizard. We don't know, but they all seem to basically be amazing. Anyway, folks, we're at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics That Are Bad For You. You can use the YouTube link down below in the descriptions or the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure you hit the part of the bell that'll give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.